Are you ready, Rob?
I'm ready.
Is your phone turned to silent?
My phone is on silent. Yes.
Do you need to check your fantasy league?
I might need to check it. We're in the middle of a draft right now, so I might need to check it throughout
Later.
the interview.
All right. Today we have my good friend, Rob Levy, single guy in LA. You're single, right?
I am single.
Does anyone think they're in a relationship with you?
No.
Are you sure about that?
My cat does. He does.
Poopy.
Yes, Poopy, my cat. He's very, very needy. He needs my attention all the time. Yes.
Okay. Well, I thought it would be nice to have you on because my audience is women, single women dating in LA, and we talks amongst ourselves about the good parts of dating and also the frustrations of dating in today's landscape in a big city. So I thought it would be good to get it from a guy's point of view. And to me, you are an average guy in LA. You're very handsome, but I'm just saying the average guy. Like when I was single, I have dated guys, I would say, that are like you before, who are.
Thank you. I think.
Like, is that a compliment?
I've dated guys like you. I know your type.
No, who are fun. They do cool things, really nice, but there can be areas where there's miscommunication or things like that. I can see how that can happen.
Absolutely.
So I thought it'd be good to get your take on that.
Awesome.
So Rob said I can ask him anything.
I did say that, and I'm hoping to have a little contribution in post if she asks anything that I don't want her to ask. But I have no authority here, so go ahead. Yeah, ask anything you want.
Okay. So to give women a little insight, what actually happens at bachelor parties?
Well, usually on Sundays, first we go to church. We pray a lot, give thanks for all the women in our lives, and that's about it. That's bachelor party life. Yeah. But I mean, what I've heard at other bachelor parties that I may or may not have been to, it's funny because for my brother's bachelor party, we invited a few of his friends, and one of his friends was very anti-bachelor party, and he was like, out of respect for my wife, we didn't have a bachelor party. What I did for my wedding is we with the guys, we just went on a fishing trip and hung out and shot the shit and chatted and just we're guys. Like, that's a bachelor party. That's what a bachelor party is. A bachelor party is the guys just hanging out, being guys, saying stupid shit, doing stupid stuff, just without any just a little more, just freedom, being themselves, acting like kids. That's really what a bachelor party is, and then there's every flavor of that. I'm sure there's plenty of inappropriate things that happen, and then there's most of my friends, if not all of my friends, the guy who's running the bachelor party respects the fiance or the wife, and so we always keep it within a certain reasonable taste and have fun. So it's it's very, very fun.
It's very
I don't recommend women looking into it, because you will always see the worst part of whatever is in your imagination in that bachelor party. But if you trust your guy, and that's that. Yeah.
Totally. Have they changed from when you were younger to now? You're in your 40s now. So are they a little different now for you guys?
I mean, the flavor's all the same. Guys hanging out, just doing stupid shit, talking stupid stuff. There's more means to do just more things and plan ahead a little bit better. So, and of course, I think as I get older, as my friends are older that are getting married, our tastes are a little more refined. So we're not just going out getting drunk. In fact, I feel like we're just appreciating more of the finer things and enjoying things a little bit more and just doing things we love, So that's I think the difference when you're younger. I don't think that will ever change. When you're younger, your idea of just like going out and having a good time is, let's go get drunk. Like, and as you get older, you want to have a little more enjoyment, a little more depth in what you enjoy, and so that's the bachelor party. Is just that. It's just a higher level of enjoyment from when you're younger and when you're older. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, I won't drill you too much, but I just wanted to ask because I've heard some stories, and I recommend not also looking into it. Like, I mean, if you feel good, like with Pete, like I wouldn't even think twice about him going off on a bachelor party. Have fun, but with some previous boyfriends, if they would, there was something about it that I didn't feel safe about it. Like, what are you guys actually doing? And have you seen the movie Very Bad Things?
No.
Have you heard of it? John Favreau's in it. Cameron
No, it
Diaz.
sounds like a movie I like.
It's a dark comedy. It's an old film, but there's a scene in the beginning where it's his bachelor party, and I think they're in Vegas or somewhere. But that to me is like probably the extreme of what happens. But I'm always like, I've heard about things like that before, but not that extreme because he ends up accidentally killing the hooker.
Oh, that's part of a bachelor party.
Like,
yeah,
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
standard. That's how it goes. Yeah, there's always a sacrifice. Yeah.
Well, talking about the refined things in life, I remember when we were on the yacht trip to the Virgin Islands. Was that last year or 2 years ago?
Uh,
2 years
which
ago.
which time?
Virgin Islands.
The-
That was the time
the
before
first
the
time.
last.
Yeah, that was about 4 years ago.
Oh, 4 years ago already.
Yeah.
Okay, but I remember because we would go to shore and there was like some bars and there was some younger guys on the trip who would want to meet women and stuff like that. And you were single as well, but you weren't really about that. You stayed with your best friend. It was Rob's best friend's birthday. By the way, how I know Rob is his best friend and my best friend are married. So that's how we know each other.
Yes.
So they took us on this lovely trip. And basically, I was just impressed that you did not care to meet women. You were with your friends and we're in the hot tub. And do you remember what you said to me when I asked you? I'm like, how come you're not at the
I
bar
don't
with the guys?"
remember exactly what I said, but I'm sure it's probably the same thing I'm thinking now is you can do that anytime. I mean, you can go flirt with you can go to bars and flirt with people anytime. How often are you going to be with your closest friends on a yacht in paradise? And I wanted to enjoy that with my friends. And yeah, you just you start to look at like, okay, what's really important? I mean, could have gone and had a wild time, and it could have been epic. It could have been so much fun, but I wanted to enjoy it with my friends, and it was his birthday, and if he was single and we were out there doing the same thing, that's where we would have been, and I would have been with him. I would have been hanging with him, and if I was married, I would have still been hanging with him because it was his birthday.
Yes.
And we always have good times when we hang out. So it's not necessarily about what you do; it's how you do it and who you do it with is really what matters. And everyone is, especially with Instagram and social media, it's like, this is what we did, but not how we did it or who we did it with. And that's really the substance of life is what are you doing, but how are you doing it and who are you doing it with? And that's really the kind of the depth of being happy, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, you're very wise. So let's talk about some of your hobbies. You do Kundalini. You teach Kundalini Yoga.
Yeah, I just started teaching Kundalini Yoga, got into it a couple years ago. It's kind of it ended up in an offshoot of martial arts. So I taught martial arts for many years, Japanese Jiu Jitsu, and taught adults, kids, special ed, adults, like Down syndrome, autistic, things like that. And after I was done with that element of my life, the school got sold. I got more into my business, and there was a lapse of me being in martial arts and that passion that I had. And I've always wanted, even when I was in martial arts, we pushed meditation, mindfulness, healing, relaxation, like all those elements were things that we pushed. Just there's only so much time to do stuff with, as you're teaching and doing things. And so I always wanted to develop a practice. And like, if you look at my goals list every year for probably the past 10 years, it's get a yoga routine going, get a meditation routine going. And my friend Alicia, who took a teacher training at Kundalini, she bullied me into taking the class and guilted me. So, of course, I went. And so I took the class and I was like, this is exactly what I want. It had the yoga set, it had relaxation, and it had a meditation all built into it. And so it was just a really nice way of getting everything that I was looking for. And so I started to do it for a couple months, and then a few of my friends wanted to do the teacher training, and they're like, I'll do it if you do it. And I was like, sure, I'll do it if you do it. Like, I know these friends, they're not going to do it. And then they both did it. And so I was like, I know deep down this is going to be good for me. The best way to immerse yourself into something is to go through a teaching program, because you really learn a lot. So I went in it and I did it with no intention of teaching afterwards, but just to refine my practice and get like better internal practice. And then the studio asked me to start teaching after that, and I've been teaching ever since. And it's more like once a week, and it keeps me honest, because if I wasn't teaching, I probably wouldn't be doing a regular morning practice, because it just forces me to keep honest, because I want to deliver to my students accurate and quality.
Yeah.
Only way to do that is to have a personal practice. So so that the Kundalini it stems from the martial arts. And if you were to ask me like, hey, what's the difference between yoga and martial arts? I'd say they're brother and sister. If you really trace the roots, they're all in the same. It's all the same. It all stems from the same. It all brings out the same. They're just different branches, but they're a brother and sister. So it fits right in with where my life is. Yeah.
Yeah, and you are very devoted to it, because when we went to Orlando and so Rob and I, when we go on trips, if Pete can't go, sometimes Pete works a lot. Rob is basically like fill-in Pete for me, so I call him my vacation husband.
Yeah.
So sometimes we have to bunk together in a room. But you will wake up very early in the morning and do your breathing exercises every single morning.
Yes. Every morning, and if for some reason I don't, because it was really a late night, I'll do it at some point in the day, even if it's only a little bit. So the quality of what I was doing definitely went down, but the commitment was still there and the discipline's still there. So, even though I would only maybe do 3 to 5 minutes of something that I was supposed to do 11 minutes of, or an hour of something, and I only did, 15, 20 minutes of, I do my best to have more discipline, more awareness within that time frame. So make it a good 3 minutes, make it the best 3 minutes you can make it. And so, and also, things I've learned is to really be gentle and forgiving on yourself. So especially when, it's just for a maintenance mode. And you're just continuing to do something, not to get so hard and down on yourself. Like, oh, I only did 3 minutes, or oh, I only did this. Doing something every day is better than not doing it. And so just patting yourself on the back saying, hey, at least you did it. And if you want better results, put more into it, and just being aware that that's there. So, and as a side note, as a vacation wife, Cece, she shows me like, oh, this is what it's like to have like a supportive person, getting the tickets ahead of coordinating stuff and doing things and taking pressure off. So it's kind of cool to see that aspect of it too when we go out on travel, to see what a good kind of partner does. Yeah, so it's been educational as well. Yeah,
it's good to have those glimpses, but I will say that's just one aspect of being in a relationship. Of course, there's like the other side too. I mean, imagine
experience those other sides. Yeah.
Rob did ask me if he was going to get mean CC or nice CC today. A little bit of both.
I'm not sure which one I was going to prefer, but I did want to know if the horns were going to come out, and
Well, I'm very impressed right now. You're very eloquent when you talk. And I'm going to guess right now that some women are like, oh, I want to go out with this guy. I think I'm going to get some messages.
Are you? Think so?
I'm about to change that though.
Okay, let's go. Okay. Let's get those people who are all drawn in, and let's straighten them out.
Okay, let's talk about dating. You are very good at getting women's phone numbers. Do you agree?
I'd say I'm slightly above average.
Women like you.
Yeah.
Like you're very easy to talk to, and you look very trusting. And I've
Yes.
seen you get I've seen you get a lot of phone numbers, but
Mm.
I've also seen you do nothing with those phone numbers.
Well, not do nothing. You just never saw anything manifest from it. So what you probably don't know is I did contact these people, most of them. Probably there's probably some that I didn't, I'm sure. But for the most part, if I get someone's number, I'm going to contact them, and and go through the effort and try to make plans. But I will pursue someone, but I won't chase. So a lot of times, some of these people's numbers that I'm getting, you have to chase them down, and you got to lock them down, and you've got to push, 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 and you'll make plans with them, and then they'll flake, or they'll say, "Oh, can we do this another time?" And those are turnoffs. And those also, and even if you really like someone, you only will go so far and before this connection that you initially had starts to fizzle, and you it's just there's nothing there. So the ones that do start to manifest, those are the women that show up. And the small handful of relationships that turn into girlfriends over the last several years, the one thing that those women had in common is they showed up. And if for whatever reason they did have to change a date, they usually just thinking back, they would be like, "Hey, I can't do Thursday, can we do Monday, can we do so as opposed to, and this is a very big, especially in LA, this is uh, like 80% of plans you make with a woman, whether it's a from like a dating perspective or just plans. For me, 80% tend to just reschedule. So I've learned to just to when I make plans with someone, to not expect them to actually take. With my guy friends, it's usually 95+%. But if almost 100% of the time, if we have to change plans, there's always like, hey, let's do it on this day instead. So there's obviously interest to continue this whatever the meeting was. And in the dating in LA dating, that doesn't happen. In LA dating, you can plan something, you can make reservations, you can go through all the hard work of putting together like a really nice, enjoyable night, and then hours before, a day before, you may get something like, oh, something came up, this and that, and I need to cancel, or can we do it another time? But there will never be a when other time. So I feel like just in relationships, whether it's a romantic relationship, a friendship, I feel that if you're the one canceling something, you want to keep things going, then you should initiate,
Mm-hmm.
and you should say, "Can we do this on this day instead?" That's just to me common courtesy. And in dating, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'll pursue. So even if they don't give me a date, I'll pursue and pursue, but at some point, it just fizzles out. And you want someone who is it's okay to be chased, but in pursued, but you want someone who's gonna be responsive, who's gonna be into you, and to me that tends to be a sign where yeah, you get initial interest,
Mm-hmm.
but then for whatever reason, it fades away. And there's things you can do as a guy um, to pique those interests and to really get things going. And I'll do that. I'll do that sometimes, and sometimes I won't. Um, but definitely, if I meet someone I really like, I do my best to keep that connection going, as much as possible for us to get a couple dates and see if we like each other.
Okay, so that seems like it's on both sides, because I've heard from females too that things fizzle out.
Mhm.
So I think it depends on the person too. I'm gonna assume if someone, male or female, really wants to be in a relationship, they will show up. But sometimes, as you said, women maybe they want to be chased, or maybe they want you to try harder. And I remember you saying
Mhm.
that it seems nowadays it seems like it's more work for men. Almost like everything is about the female and what she wants. Like there's pushback about that. Like you should do everything the way I want it done. Is it like that?
Yeah, it's kind of tricky because men in general, they like to, a good man, I feel like a good man wants to plan stuff, wants to do things, like wants to make that the first date magical and the second date, and wants to put the effort in. And then and you'll get, but at the same time they do want they want some reciprocation, like gratitude, compassion, like I've taken women on dates, had a great time, and not even a thank you. You pick them up, pay for dinner, show them a good time, take them dancing, do other stuff, and then like not even like a message saying, "Hey, thanks for a great night." There's a couple times, once or twice, where they got mad at me for not messaging them to say thank you for taking them out and showing them a good time. So it's kind of like there's, you want, and that might be good for some people. That might be good. Some people might want someone who they're just treating more like a trophy, and they're just taking them out and spending money and doing stuff. More the genuine connections, though, you want there to be like a relationship building to where there's give and take on both sides. And it's tricky in LA because you'll say to someone, "Hey, I'd love to pick you up and take you out." Then you get a message maybe with some attitude. "I'm not giving you my address." Like, "Oh, okay. Let's just meet there then." And then the next time you may say to someone, "Hey, here's a nice restaurant, and let's meet at this restaurant." You're not going to pick me up. What kind of gentleman are you? So, you get these both sides of the coin. And so you tend to say, "Okay, so what I would love to, hey, I'd love to pick you up. I understand if you would like to meet there, but you kind of just the I guess politically correct way now is saying, "Hey, I would love to pick you up if you don't mind. Otherwise we can meet at the restaurant." But it's like now you're playing this neutral part instead of being aggressive, or so it's just strange. And usually the best for me happens when it's just regular. You feel like it's a regular dynamic. You're not trying. You speak from the heart and you go. But sometimes that doesn't happen right away. Sometimes there's a little more friction. You just don't know each other's personality. You're not clicking right away, and so there's a little bit of a bumpy start. And then sometimes it's opposite, where, "Oh my God, this person is really easy to talk to. Everything's, we're just going." And then once you get to know each other, other elements come up that will pull you apart. So getting started sometimes is tricky. Yeah.
Right, with the kind of like tiptoeing, almost like an unsureness from both sides, because as you said, it's kind of going more towards neutral now, and people are different too. Some women, they want it to be completely equal. Some and with paying and picking up and all that, and so that's why I think good communication is so important, and it seems like you have found the way to the politically correct way.
It's politically correct, but it's boring. It's like a boring thing. It's like
there's less push and pull, right?
It's not. It's less push and pull. It's not like it actually takes away from the romance when you're trying to be politically correct, or just not offend someone. And sometimes you just got to go with your gut and say, "You know what? I just feel like let's just meet here." And just say it, and just choose. When you try to get to know someone, just choose one and go with it, and if you're comfortable with one, then just always do that. Most guys, almost all of my friends, not almost all my friends, if they're taking a woman out on a first date, they're paying for it. And if the woman feels like, she wants to do 50-50, I would say the best thing to do is just to offer, just to offer to split, but if the guy says, "I'd like to take it," just let him take it, just let him do that, and you don't owe him anything because he bought you dinner. The most you owe someone is thank you. Like, well, just thank you, that's it. But if having a good time and you're nice and respectful to each other and flirtatious, all that good stuff, and it's a great date, and he's buying you dinner, and you want to offer to, and there are some guys that will split it. I think my friends are a little more old fashioned. We want to pay. Like we want to we want to treat you. Like it makes us feel good for you to have a good time. That's the type of people in my circle. Yeah.
That's awesome. So what's the average first date like for you? Like where would you take a girl? Like do you do dinner on the first date?
Generally I do dinner. I was never really good at these lunch things. This feels so businessy, or coffee dates or lunch dates. Yeah, like generally I would meet someone for dinner. I also like to eat, so
You do like to eat,
yes.
which by the way, I have something for you.
Oh,
I forgot.
okay. This is really how she got me to the interview. Let's see.
This is a gluten-free chocolate chip cookie.
Oh, okay. All right.
Are you going to eat this?
Not at the moment, but I'm going to keep it on my side so I don't forget it.
Or oh, it's not warm anymore. This is a pumpkin chocolate chip loaf.
Is it or?
And or.
Okay.
I'll just leave that there.
Okay. This is the bribery. Ooh, this looks good. Yeah, this is one of my favorites. Pumpkin.
I knew you would like that one. Are you still doing a carb-free thing?
So I will go on sporadic diet type stuff. So I'll diet, especially if I'm training for something, for sure. Diet no problem. But I try to do moderation. So I'll cut. Sometimes I'll just cut coffee cold turkey. I'll cut carbs as much as possible. Cut gluten or bread for a couple weeks, and then depending on where I go, I'll break diet. So if I'm going on a trip and I'm enjoying something with friends, or it's like a unique thing, I tend to not diet unless I'm like training for something specific. Lately, I've not been training for something specific. So
okay.
Yeah.
So you'll eat it.
I'll eat it.
Of course you'll eat it. I knew you would eat it.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get back to the first date. So you love to eat.
Oh yeah. So one thing I like to do is enjoy a meal. And that's a great way to see if I'm going to get along with someone. So pick a spot that is good. Ideally, it'd be a new spot, some place I haven't tried. Although, like, guys tend to want to pick places they've been to because it's instinctual. You want to control some of the elements. You don't want to be so trying to figure out what's going on. And then you're not paying as much attention to your date. You want to have that. And then I know some women that were like, I don't want to go on a date where he took his other dates, and I don't want to go here and go there. And so look, unless you have some suggestions, like, hey, I'd love some Italian, or hey, I'd love some sushi. Just give them some direction. Like, it helps to give some direction to take some of the guesswork out. So that'd be one of my advices to the women is, it's always helpful to give, if a guy's trying to please you, it's always helpful to give him some direction. So for example, let's say you are dating and you just feel like a relaxing weekend. He's not going to necessarily be able to read your mind. He might think like, oh, I got to plan something, like I'm going to look at going on a wine tasting thing, or I'm going to look to maybe do something more active. And if you're feeling like chill, just, big help. Hey, just say, hey, babe, it'd be great if this weekend we just could do something chill. Or if you're feeling active, just say, I feel like I want to get out and do something. What about you? Just little hints like that. And guys that are more paying attention than not will pick that up. And of course, you could be a little more direct, especially if he's really busy or swamped. Then be more direct. If he's not as busy or swamped, then you can be more subtle. But just, in general, they won't be able to read your mind. And then if you give them a little bit of hint. So, if you're planning first date stuff, and you just mention to that person, hey, I'm feeling something like this, does that sound good to you? It's always a good way to just softly introduce. But yeah, in general, there's some great date spots. I mean, now with kind of the COVID situation, slim pickings. But things are getting better. Like there are a lot more outdoor places, and there are actually a lot of cool spots to try right now. So, um, just great opportunity to go on a lot of first dates now. Just to or dates, not just first dates, but dates to try some new spots. Um, I'm also, I think, I think I'm in some cases I'm a bad example of certain things because I'm very as you know, I'm very particular about um, how someone's manners are when they're eating.
Yes.
If they're smacking their food, if they're talking with food in their mouth, if they're, smack their gum. That's, unfortunately, I have that misophonia gene at a very high level. And it automatically turns me off to someone. And so, unfortunately, there's been some phenomenal women that I just couldn't be with because of how their habits were. Um, and that's one of the reasons. That's where I'm high maintenance. Is I have that as an issue. So, but going to dinner with someone like that, like right away, I'll know if I get along with them. Yeah.
Got it. Are you online dating right now?
Yep. I'm online dating.
Which apps do you use?
Lately I'm on Tinder and I'm on eHarmony. I just started eHarmony again, but they're just, I don't know why, but it's so disorganized. It's so not a good app to use. I feel like I tend to meet more people that are more seriously looking for relationships, which is not good or bad. It just is, that's just what it is. And Tinder is kind of hit or miss. But I rarely meet people on the online dating apps
Okay.
because I don't feel like I don't feel like I shine well on a profile. I think when people meet me and get to know me is where it's I tend to meet people. So lately I haven't been dating much because I haven't really been meeting people much.
And well, you're also busy working. Oh, by the way,
Yeah.
Rob, what do you do for work?
So I'm an entrepreneur and I run. There's two companies right now that are divisions I'm running within our company. One is in healthcare, and one is in hospitality. And the healthcare one, I do a lot of software development, and in the hospitality one, I do a lot more of the company leading and delegating, and also some of the programming and things like that. But being a business owner, you wear a lot of hats. So I roll up my sleeves. I do some programming, do some marketing, sales, all that good stuff. And as we're growing, we're hiring more people and we're delegating more, which is really one of the keys to having a successful dating life is to be able to delegate. If you're a business owner and you're not able to delegate, it makes it much more difficult to have a successful relationship. It just is. Yeah.
Okay. Would you like to be in a long-term relationship?
Absolutely. If I found the right person, I would absolutely love it. And, and just kind of going on the time thing. If I ever feel like, I meet someone, I'm like, oh, I just don't have time. I don't have, my friends will say, hey, well, how come you're not going out with this person? I'm so busy right now. I don't have time. Like, if you ever hear yourself saying something like that, that just means you're not that into that person. Because if you're into someone, now there may be a slice of time where that's the case, like a week or two that is just so intense because there's a project or something or just things, life's happening. But if that's the case, in a month or two, and that's the same feeling where you only want to allocate certain time to someone, you're just not that into that person, like just hands down. Now they may be a great person and you may like them a lot. You may even love them, but you're not that into that person. If that element is there where you're saying to yourself, I just don't have time right now. You always have time. Like the busiest I've ever been, I've met someone and boom, like all of a sudden, like not only do I have extra time to do all the work that I've been doing, but I have all this extra time to do all this dating stuff, and there's even more extra time. So, time is, it's not constant in the sense that it's one speed. Time can get played with. You can all of a sudden need to do something that would take 8 hours and get it done in 2 hours. You can stretch time, play with time, multitask, do all sorts of stuff. When you want something, you will make time for it. And it's never a good thing to call someone out on that. It's just going to end bad. Like if you say to someone, well, you would, can we do this? Oh, I don't have time. Well, you would if you were into me. Like that's not a way to really have that kind of conversation. And sometimes that's the relationship. If people are in a relationship and they may want space, they may enjoy your company, and they may not want to give you that time. It doesn't mean that they don't love you or care about you. It just means they don't want to give you that time. And if that doesn't work for you, then say something, do something about it, but also know that by saying something, that doesn't change their feelings about you. That may change how they allocate time about you, but not necessarily how they feel about you. So that's something to consider.
I'm sorry. I think I just got confused right there.
Yeah.
So how ideally would you like someone to say it to you? Just say you're hanging out with someone, you just start dating someone, you see each other once a week, and then she decides she would like to see you more often, and you're working on your businesses. How would you like her to ask or bring it up?
Yeah, so I could see how that got a little confusing. So, just to maybe bring up some more things like, hey, I'd like to do some of these things this week or this month or whatever. Like, can we do these things, as opposed to just saying, let's spend more time together. If it's someone busy and you just say, let's spend more time together, now you're essentially giving that brain a project to work on with no parameters. But if you're giving them some guidance, like, hey, it would be great if we can do a hike this weekend, or is there any time in the next couple weeks that we can go traveling and do something, or hey, there's I'd like to do some dinner during the week. Can you find some time? Things like that, as opposed to just bluntly saying, I'd like to spend more time. But my point on that was, if a guy is always saying to themselves, I just don't have time, and that's the theme within a kind of 2-3 month window, they're just not that into you. If that's the theme, if it's a slice of like, if that person's like busy with an actual project, or like there's certain things happening and they just don't have time, they may generally not have some time. They'll still make some time, but they may not genuinely have some time. So not to microman, not to look at it in a vacuum. Oh, this person's at it, they don't have time for me, they're not into me. But if that's the theme, then yes, they're not that into you. And if that's a problem for you and you really want more with that person, then that's when decisions need to be made. But in some cases, that works for people. Like, there are people that don't want to be on both sides. They don't want to be spending all sorts of time. They want some space. And, there's very independent women that are doing so much stuff, but they still want a relationship. And sometimes there's a dynamic that works great. I'm amazed at your and Pete's relationship, because sometimes you guys just, go do your stuff and come back, and it's great. You guys are very skilled at giving each other space without taking it personally.
Yes, that was intentional. We were both looking for that. That we're both, almost like you want someone to be there for you, but also leave you alone.
Yes. Yes.
And I never wanted it to be like a discussion every time. Like, I'm gonna go to Vegas this weekend. Like, okay, have fun. Not like, we need to talk about this. I feel like not loved by, like, we have that mutual understanding of
I can never see you having that conversation with each other. Yeah.
That we can, go off and travel separately, do our separate things, and both parties are okay with that. It's not, we don't take it as like, you don't love me or anything like that.
Yeah.
And in that sense, there's ease, which is what I was looking for in my marriage, in a long-term relationship, because I've dated a lot of guys where it just didn't feel easy. And it felt like, if that's the main relationship in your life, I feel like life throws enough challenges at us. I said, I don't need my main relationship to be one of those challenges.
Right.
I wanted ease. So that's what I
It's amazing.
that's
It's
what I
great.
looked for. And I feel like you need like the female version of Pete, maybe, in a sense, in
In a
that
sense, I mean, I do. Yeah, I need someone who. It's
secure.
hard for me to put Pete in a wig now, but so yeah, I do want someone who's compassionate, but also inspires me. Um, and it's funny, growing up, going through school, you're presented with these facts, with these people. All these guys did these inventions, and all the famous people in history are men, and blah blah blah. I remember in high school, um, there was this saying, behind every great man is a great woman, and as a high school teenager, I thought that was just like the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like we're taught that these men do all these things, and these are the ones that did it. How are these women? I think it's just a nice way of getting them involved. And then I got in a relationship with a woman who drug me down and just really um, destroyed me. As far as my creativity, as far as just like wanting to move forward in my business, just really anchored me down and drug me back. Then I realized how right that saying was. Behind every great man in history absolutely is a great woman or a great partner or a great inspiration or so on. Behind any great person is a great, compassionate, inspirational person, whether it's a man or a woman. But it is. I'm seeing people now that are becoming successful, um, not because of their partner, but in spite of their partner. And it's a struggle, and it's pulling their health down, and it's a problem. And really, behind all these great people is a great someone who is inspiring them, being compassionate, and doing all these little things that really exponentially add up and allow that person to have momentum and create stuff. And so I did see the value of that. I did see how how someone could be super successful in business and have a spouse that was there for them from the ground up and became successful, and they are absolutely 100% part of that success. Because in my situation, that girlfriend, if she had been more supportive and compassionate, I would have been much more successful, if she was the right person for me. Um, but it was the opposite, and it pulled me down. And so I do see how someone being a good relationship partner, and sometimes it's not what you do, it's maybe what you don't do. And that's the biggest thing I think people don't realize. As much as you need to do is as much as there's also stuff that you don't need to do, to um, keep people inspired and being compassionate too. So yeah.
So specifically, what are some of those don'ts?
Um, some of the obvious ones that you hear all the time, and this is more especially for men. When a man comes home, letting them have time to have some downtime. So if you guys are living together or whatnot, someone coming home or coming into a situation, whether he's coming home or just transitioning. So anytime a man is transitioning, not to just start dumping on that person, giving them time to adjust. The male brain is more one tracked, and the female brain is more six tracked. And so it's hard for a six track person to understand how a one track mind needs to work. And the short answer is it's just very simple, very common sense, very simple. So, a lot of times you'll see the one track, the man coming home, transition, needing some downtime, but right away getting stuff added, right away, boom, boom, being pegged and pegged. And I like to use the analogy of just imagine you had a phone that was on, 5% charge. When you bring that phone home, you want to charge it. You don't want to start using it right away, downloading videos and looking at stuff that's just going to burn the phone out. At the same time, if you let it charge just for a little bit, it's always going to be struggling for power. So let the phone charge for a half hour, an hour, or whatever. And then when it's charged, it will be responsive, and it will be, and if it's not, if the person's just being super lazy and this and that, there's other ways to deal with that. And again, it may not be the right relationship, but more times than not, you'll get more out of your person if you let that person charge. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it reminds me of that saying where they say, go towards what energizes you, not drains you. And
Mm.
that's when you know you're in alignment and on the right track. Like
Yeah.
if it feels draining, you're maybe take a step back.
Right. Take a step back. And yeah, you know, a lot of times the intentions, if the intentions are there, like, you know, you want something out of this person, whether it's your attention or like a chore or whatever, you'll get that out of that person if you just give them that moment to charge. You know, if someone came home at 6:30 and you started at them at 6:31, having that person to do all these things and peppering them with stuff. What if that person was stuck in traffic and came home at 6:45 or 7? You know, that space is still there. That half hour of difference is still there. So just allow that person to settle in, you know, and then engage them, or wait till they engage you. You know, like the best is wait till that person's ready to communicate, and they'll communicate with you. And if they don't, there's other problems, you know. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that reminds me of some miscommunication that I've had in the past with exes or guys that I dated. I mean, now through the years I worked on my communication. So towards the end of my dating before I met Pete, I would ask about it versus just like getting butt hurt and like crying and leaving, which has happened before. For example, one time, this was like a pretty big for me. I was dating a guy, and um, after we had sex, he just like turned over and like went to bed, and like I just felt so in that moment ignored. Like I, he didn't see, but I started crying. I like got up in the middle of the night. I was like, oh my god, and I just left. But that I realized was not personal. Like later on when I did the work on myself, that had nothing to do with anything, right? From a guy's point of view, a lot of times afterwards, like you said, it's just one track, just like, let me have a breather, you
Yeah.
know? But I just felt like the attention was just like turned away from me. And I was just like, what the hell? Um, but that's why I think just like the good communication too, if you don't feel good about something, to ask about it. Because that guy he was a good person, you know, and it didn't mean anything. I didn't know how to bring it up in that moment, and I just made assumptions. I
Right.
also made assumptions.
Yeah, and again, and that's where the give and take happens, right? So at some point, the guy after sex will need to give a little extra effort and give some comfort and some compassion and time to the woman to make her feel, because that's what she needs. Then at the same time, you know, maybe sometimes the woman could say, you know, okay, good, go, like, just let him go and lie down and let him just, you know, have his little animalistic nap and recharge. And but yeah, and not to take it personally, but it's, you know, if you still require some attention, that doesn't mean that, hey, I need to give this part up, because if that's something you need, you still need it. But also at the same time, just be compassionate, like, hey, sometimes this person might need to just chill, and let me give them those moments. Not 50-50. Things don't have to be 50-50, but sometimes, you know, sometimes. And that's probably enough to let that person charge, you know. And again, that comes with some communication, you know.
Oh,
Yeah.
totally. And learning not to make assumptions too.
Right.
Because I think that can destroy something really fast. Because you never know, if you're not sure about something, just ask.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, they'll ask me, like, this is what I'm going through. How should I ask him? And I'm just thinking, for the most part, most of the time, the answer is you should ask him the way you just said it to me.
Right.
The trick is to not push it onto someone or with underlying like desperation. It's more out of curiosity and matter of fact, like, hey, you know, I was just wondering, da 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 da, instead of, because you can feel it, right?
Yeah, so I think there's two elements to what you just, there's a missing element. So yeah, I think you hit on one of the things that is very key. Ask the way you would just ask your friend, like, hey, you know, and ask it as innocently and gently as that. The other element, though, is the timing. So when to ask, and that's the trickiest part, because if you're asking these types of questions at maybe not the like appropriate time, and also if you're asking them consistently at a certain time, then you're and if some guys are just uncomfortable talking about certain stuff, then it creates this kind of bad association with it. So let's just say every time you guys go out on a date that's a half hour, 45-minute drive, and that's every time you're bringing it up, then that guy may not want to go on those dates anymore, or those drives, because he's always feel like he's going to be attacked. And so but if they're being brought up as like you said, gentle conversations, they may not ever, they're just conversations, and they're not feeling that way. Also, if you're bringing it up like right after sex, or bringing it up in bed, or right before you go to bed, those aren't the places to do it. A few things that I notice about kind of getting past the 3-month mark and keeping the relationships, and the past the 3-year mark and more. And I think Steve Harvey said it the best. He said, what it took to keep your man, or to get your man, what it took to get your man is what it's going to take to keep your man. And if you're doing all the seductive things, and not letting, not just walking around naked, but being like seductive on certain things, and being discreet, and all the things to get them, those are the little things you need to keep going to keep them. And so, just because you're in a relationship doesn't mean to start like, hey, right before we go to bed, I want to bring this up. You wouldn't do that if you were just starting a date. You would bring it up in a different kind of more safer place that you guys could talk. And so, not to take for granted that just because you're in a long-term relationship, to start behaving differently, and because that's just how it is now. Like, that's the quickest way to burn passion.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I completely agree. And I usually suggest to people, because when I first met Pete, I didn't do anything differently in the beginning on purpose, because I never wanted him down the road to say, like, why don't you do that anymore?
That's great.
Right? I never wanted that. So I knew if he loved me for me, just showing up like this, then we'll be good.
Yeah.
And that's how also you could create a relationship where you can feel like yourself, and you don't have to feel like on, or like doing, because if you do like things that you normally wouldn't do, I feel like it would feel exhausting and unnatural down the road if you didn't want to do it anymore.
Right. Yeah. Because if it's like, this is who I am and this is you love, it's easy. I could upkeep this, no problem, But if it's like, yeah, you try to be someone different to attract a person, and then you change, that, yeah, men, in that case, men don't do well with change.
No, it's true. I think it was Alison Armstrong that said that men are better at women than choosing their initial partners, because essentially who they choose is who they want for life.
Right.
They can detect that better than women, where women oftentimes are hopeful, or they try to change.
They say, I got a piece of I got a slab here, I'll change it, I'll mold it into what I want it to be. A canvas, I'll paint it how I want it to be.
Yes, which does not work, by the way.
Generally does not work in anyone's best interest.
People can change, but they have to want to change.
Uh-huh.
And I think it's just in your own best interest, you accept people how they are.
Yeah, and that's funny, because when what you brought that up, because when I start dating people, I'm doing all these different things. When I was younger, I was teaching martial arts. Now I'm doing like salsa dancing, I'm doing yoga, I'm doing a bunch of other stuff. And then when I start dating someone, all of a sudden, they not always, but that person might want me to stop doing some of these things because they want my attention. And what the common misconception is all these things that the guy was doing is things that made him who he is, and that's who you were attracted to. Then when you start pulling these like a Jenga, you start pulling these little blocks out little by little, you're dismantling the guy you were attracted to, instead of supporting some of that stuff or becoming more involved where you can. And so instead of reinforcing that man, you start to Jenga him. And then eventually,
is that the term?
I just thought of it right now. So yeah, you start to Jenga him, and the whole thing starts to collapse. It will collapse at one point. It will collapse if you start dismantling who he was when you met him. And if that's who you're attracted to, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you support more of it? Now, again, if you're coming in saying, I'm going to change this man, yeah, if he wants to change, that might be a great that may be a great fit. But most often than not, if you're meeting a confident man that's charming in a certain way, probably not the best to start jangling. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this has been very insightful, and I love it because I feel like, I mean, because you're not a relationship expert, right?
Definitely not. I do see a lot of relationships with friends, and I see things that, being an outside person in, I could give people, a lot of people come to me for advice for relationships because I can see the perspectives, and I give them perspective. I'll give the woman's perspective very well, and same with the guy. I'll give the guy's perspective to the woman very well. So I do get asked a lot of advice. However, I'm obviously not the best within a relationship for myself. So
But I mean, I think this is good because it is insightful because you're a real guy dating in LA right now, and this is your perspective. Of course, everyone's different too. You know, not every single man is gonna be the same, but I think it's good to have conversations with opposite sex. You know, if you have guy friends, like get their perspective on it. 'Cause it can be different.
Yeah, it is, and that's the thing is usually both people want to get to here, but this person imagines the road getting to here like this to here, and this person imagines it going like this, and so you want the same thing, but the details are different, and so being able to understand how that person thinks about certain things, the perspective, it really helps to make sure to say, oh, we're on the same page. You know, it's not like this person's an asshole and this person's a bitch. It's that this is how they're imagining it, and this is how I'm imagining it, but we really want the same thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good communication.
Good communication.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on my show.
Great show. Great talking to you. Hope to be back a repeat guest.
Yeah, I'll see. I'll see if I have any requests for that.
Okay.
I'll see you later this week.
Awesome. Thanks.